Hello, Cesar.
Hey there, Kris. Nice to be back here. I'm sending this from Vienna, Austria. This is my apartment. Sorry for the mess. And yeah, I'm gonna be answering some of your questions. So I hope you're doing over there. I hope you're doing good over there.
Your house isn't that messy, don't worry. Mine's worse. But do you know there's a girl on your bed? How are you?
How am I? I'm doing actually quite good, considering the circumstances. I'm out here chilling, being forced to kind of decelerate, which isn't a bad thing per se, you know. Going on way more walks than I have in the last couple of years. Also getting to see a bit more of the city than I have in recent years. So all in all, quite good. Of course, the general situation is not good. It's tense. You know, a lot of people that I know are in trouble, and I sympathize with them and try to help out where I can. In Austria, I think we've struck, if you can say it like that, we've struck a good balance compared to many other countries, I think. We never had to completely lock down the country in terms of not being allowed to go out for any reason at all or something like that. That happened. That didn't happen in Austria. So it was, of course, there was nothing to go to because everything was closed. But we could go out for sports as long as we kind of stayed distant from people not living in our household. And now we are the first shops are like back open now, and like we're slowly booting up the system, and so we're also one of the first ones to kind of come back to some semblance of normalcy, you know, normalcy. And yeah, so I'm not complaining too much. Of course, yeah, who's to say what the future brings and if it's really the end of this weird time and how long the end will take.
Well, how is the situation affecting your life?
How is the situation affecting my life? Well, in many ways, since there is no more event business, shows are off. Also, I was supposed to be on a TV show weekly. That is postponed until, you know, later. And yeah, so that's how it's affecting me. There is no entertainment business to speak of right now. Yeah, so culture is deactivated.
Hopefully now the TV shows can get back to normal. And yes, the entertainment industry also here has been hit very drastically. So did you always want to be an artist?
Did I always want to be an artist? I never wanted to be an artist. It was just that one day I realized I already am one. Like I've grown up in this lifestyle, and way longer before I could form concepts of how to define it. I was a product of that lifestyle, and this was the only way that I really knew how to be. So it's actually all the other things I'm striving to be that I really have to decide to become, like to become a business person, like to be able to handle my own affairs and not have counselors and lawyers for every little thing. That's a thing where I set out to learn it. But as far as being an artist is concerned, that was without me having to do anything consciously.
What do you love the most about your job?
What do I love most about my job? Well, it brings me in contact with a lot of different people from a lot of different walks of life. You know, it's a very unique perspective to be able to travel to a new place and then mix with like thousands of people at once and kind of get like a collective energy from each place. I don't think that a tourist can ever have in a couple of days of visiting a country the kind of experience an artist touring has. I think even though it's really a short time, you kind of get a condensed sense of the culture, of the local culture, and that is something very inspiring, very interesting. So that's definitely a huge plus of the performer and in general. Whoever, like, even if it's like a comedian, I think it's like that. And what else? I mean, just the creative process is just full of, I mean, it has two sides. It's full of joy and like deep touching experiences, but also heartbreak, because it's a very personal job. You cannot separate it from your everyday life and personality. So things that happen in your artistry affect you, and you can never check out. So that kind of intensity and that interwovenness with your everyday person is a huge blessing, but also it comes with troubles also.
Being a singer makes you very vulnerable sometimes, especially when performing and writing. It's very intimate. As I'm sure people are aware, you are also a model, as they can also tell from some of your photographs on social media and on the internet. So do you feel more comfortable singing or modeling?
Do I feel more comfortable singing or modeling? I feel vastly more comfortable singing. Modeling is something that I wouldn't consider myself good at or anything. I've never had to do it professionally. I mean, doing a job here and there to me is not doing it professionally. I like stuck a toe into that business, but to do it as like full like 100% comes with a totally different set of traits you have to have, and qualities and skills. Like when I see my girlfriend on a shooting, I just see this, there's a training involved. You know, I think it takes years to learn. So I will never feel comfortable doing it. It's always a hit and miss kind of thing. Whereas in singing, it's just my home.
Tell me about your writing process.
What's my writing process? I think at this point in my life, I'm open to new writing processes. Normally, it was just basically me formulating a relationship between a melody and a rhythm, or a melody and a harmony, and then going from there. So kind of let the feeling and the vibe guide me to the topic. You know, the topic has to kind of come out of you as a response to the music, and that's how I always did it, because I don't like when a song sounds different than what the topic is about. I don't like when the song is sounds fierce and dangerous, and then it's about bunnies and flowers and stuff like that. And it happens because some people write like that. They just put whatever lyrics they find nice on any given song and just make it work. But I cannot do it like that. So I usually go from the music. As far as how things come together, I'm now like with these new times, also now with the distance between me and the studio and any collaborator and contributor, it becomes a vastly different process. It kind of gets dissected. You send an idea and you get an idea back, and then you react to that idea, and it becomes a back and forth. Usually when you're in a group setting in a studio, it's kind of an immediate chaotic coming together, and just something happens, and at the end you really don't know who did what most of the time, because even if you think you had an idea, you don't know if that other person didn't give you something that make you have the idea. So that becomes almost undistinguishable at one point if you're creating in real time with 2 or 3 people in a room. So that is something I hadn't done until like 2 years ago. So that was a new process for me, just letting people in the first moments of the creative process. Usually that was always me in solitude, but these days I really enjoy it.
Speaking of animals, you mentioned bunnies. I saw a dog. What inspires you?
What inspires me? Actually people. Mostly people inspire me, and the vibe they give off. More than once I have written about something that had nothing to do with my life, had no biographic element to it, and then only to find out it was some kind of topic that one of the contributors or people in the room or somebody I met the other day had around them, and just picked up on it and just wrote about it. And much later it became clear that this is where I must have picked that up, that mood or that thought or that just energy. I mean, to me, there's no doubt that energy plays a part in inspiration. You know, like, who do you have around you, and they don't have to even say anything to influence the creative process.
Is there a theme you find particularly difficult to write about?
A theme that is particularly hard to write about. I find it quite hard to write about politics, mostly because I don't wanna use my position as a musician to push my politic ideologies down somebody's throat. I like politics as a platform of ideas where everybody's equal, and as a singer you have a much louder voice than everybody else, so I wouldn't feel comfortable putting my beliefs into a song and just amplifying that, but I would love to open a dialogue at any given time, but I just haven't found a way to put that in the music that doesn't feel like condescending or like patronizing to me.
What has been the highlight of your career so far?
What has been the highlight of my career so far? Yeah, definitely Eurovision Song Contest 2018, but that was also the kickoff of my career. That was my first release as a singer, solo singer. Before I was just producer and songwriter. So I kind of started my career on a high note, and yeah, it's a huge experience, and the perfect, like, set the tone perfectly for, you know, the metamorphosis that I'm going through now as a musician, because it's really a totally different ball game to write for somebody else and to write for yourself. It's you can spend 10 years writing for other people and not really progress as a writer for yourself. But after 10 years writing for other people, coming back to yourself, you bring you have skills that you didn't have before, and that can help you, yeah, also can help you accept people into your space and let them contribute, even though it's your message that you want to bring out. So that definitely is different from before, when I last tried to do something for myself, which was when I was 20 years old.
So you say Eurovision was the start of your career. Tell us a bit more about the experience. How was it? Would you compete again?
Eurovision Song Contest in general is a great competition. It's a great event, a great time. So I'm a fan just as much as I'm a former contestant. Would I go back? At this moment, I don't see a reason. You know, with the information I have now, I don't see what it would bring anybody if I would go again. I'm very happy with the way things went the first time around, and so at this point, I don't think about it.
And do you play any instruments?
Do I play instruments? Well, I have a good sense for drums. I had a drum teacher. I played also drums in bands, but that's so long ago that I cannot, not even as a joke, call myself a drummer. But I have a good sense for rhythm, and this is kind of my background. I used to be percussion player in Latin American like formations when I was like 11 years old. I started really early. So that is kind of my underbelly, but I'm not proficient at any instrument really, even though I compose my stuff on piano. I just have something. I don't like things like machines or objects in between me and songwriting. Like I prefer kind of, like I can tell a guitar player exactly what I hear and what kind of like the way he should play the note, and which note in the harmony should be dominant, and everything, like every little thing. I hear it in my head, but I really don't like touching an object and having to translate my ideas through that object into something. I'm just not a things person. I just don't enjoy dealing with things. So yeah, So that's why I never got super technical with any machine. It's just not my thing.
So let's say you have a good ear for music. If you weren't a singer, what would you be?
If I wasn't a singer, I would probably try to do something useful for the community or for a cause. You know, there's so many disenfranchised and disadvantaged beings. I'm not excluding like animals and nature, like conservation work is hugely appealing to me. So if I would probably gravitate towards something like that.
Are you working on something new at the moment?
Am I working on something new? Yes, I'm constantly working on something. I have a bunch of songs that I'm finishing up now, which means communicating with sound engineers over the distance, which is quite fun to do. And a bunch of songs in different stages of production, finalization. And also on the side, I have Zoom calls with musicians all over the globe, and just vibing and just starting off new ideas and kind of go back and forth and see where it takes us. So yeah, trying to be as busy as possible.
Do you have any regrets in your life?
Do I have any regrets? No, I'm not the kind of guy that looks back and goes, what if? It's not me. I believe in you wouldn't make a mistake if you weren't supposed to make it. And the only way to learn anything is to make those mistakes. So it's really a moot point to say, what if I didn't make the mistake that I had to make being me? So no regrets.
I say the same thing all the time and my friends laugh at me. Mistakes make us who we are today. You're right. Is there something on your bucket list that you haven't yet achieved?
Bucket list. Do I have bucket list? I mean, I have like small things on my bucket list, like traveling to specific places and yeah, I would like to live in Portugal one day because I really like it there for some reason. Not because of the song contest, but also prior to that. Otherwise, yeah, I would like to go to Africa, to the wilderness, and in my dreams I would become best friends with an elephant or something. That would be great.
That is cute.
She's right, it's very cute. But really, you said best friends with an elephant. Why not? Do you have any advice for those who want to follow in your steps and become a singer too?
My advice for people who want to follow in my steps, namely be a working, releasing, recording artist, and maybe go to Eurovision, do well there, if that's what this question means. In terms of Eurovision, I can only recommend to you that you feel very secure as an artist, that you have a lot of experience on your own, like performing and have releases out. In my case, I had many releases that didn't feature me, so at least I knew what I was doing in that sense. So it's not, I don't think Eurovision is a place to go as a complete newcomer, because it's unfair. Because when you're only gonna go there once, and you don't want to have, like we said, you don't want to have any regrets. You don't want to be unsure as to what kind of music you want to do in general, and you don't want to look back to this amazing time thinking, oh, that wasn't really me. So also the Eurovision crowds, they really reward people being themselves. So I think it's a win-win for everybody if you just make sure that you know who you are as a person and as a musician, and take your time until you also have that right song that just screams Eurovision Song Contest.
So who will be the first person to hug you when the situation is over?
Who will hug me when all this is going to be over? Right now, I'm in a lucky position because my favorite hugger is right there in the back. And so I'm not short on hugs, thank God. I think that's the reason why I'm so relaxed.
But behind you, there's your girlfriend and your dog. Who is the best hugger? That question you can answer privately, don't worry. So thank you very much for this interview and hope to see you soon.
Kris, I hope I answered all your questions to your satisfaction, and I wish you the best. Stay healthy, and all to you out there, everybody else watching, take care and see you soon in the outside.